So I just, Drew is going to be basically the next session. I just want to call you up and just publicly thank you. Drew has been basically a friend of the club, a friend of me since, from the beginning, 5-6 years ago. The very first website we created when I think it was like 30 CMOs, you designed it and did it for just as a friend. And since then, some of the, whether it's logo work, whether it's some of the interesting creative for the events and things like that, you've been a huge fan. So I just want to round of applause for Drew. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, so I'm going to turn over to you to introduce the next session.
That's perfect. And so I may have the distinction of come on up, panelists, of coming the farthest way for this event. I was actually in Istanbul a couple of days ago, and it's kind of relevant, or I'm going to make it relevant. I was on a cruise, and it was the trip of my life. My wife and I were there. It was a 12-day cruise. It was unbelievable, and I'm really having a tough time getting off the ship. So I'm going to start this with 7 swimmingly smart reasons why content marketing is like going on a cruise ship. And Richard's going to like this because he's Viking Cruises. But so the first thing I want to say about content marketing is that it doesn't work for everybody. Are there any cruisers in here, people who like cruise ships? Okay, Richard, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, but that was a minority, and so there's it doesn't.
You like travel.
Yeah, there you go.
There you
right.
go.
So, but content marketing does not work for every brand. It does work particularly well for brands with long sales cycle. Okay. For cruising, it's not a one-size-fits-all proposition, and I think one of the exciting things about this panel is that we have 3 very different brands with 3 very different approaches to content marketing. Third, it helps to know your destination. Obviously, you don't want to get on the wrong ship, but in content marketing, like every other form of marketing, you need a strategy and you need a roadmap. 4, one of the sort of unknown things about cruising is that it can get expensive fast with all these excursions and so forth. And content marketing can get really expensive really fast, and we're going to talk about that. Number 5, it's a leap of faith. You get on the ship and you wonder, are any of my people going to be on there? And my colleagues will tell you that there is a linear ROI, but there isn't. It's a leap of faith. You get started down this road. When you start, you really don't know how it's going to work out. 6, bigger isn't always better. And by that, in the content marketing case, is having more stuff is not necessarily a solution. And then number 7, and the most relevant to this conversation today, is it helps to have a good captain. You certainly don't want to run aground off the shore of Italy like Costa. And these 3 folks, and I'm really excited to have them here because they all 3 are the captains of their ship. Dominic Petrelli from Rico USA, Judy Hackett from DMB Credibility Corp, and Richard Marnell from Viking Cruise Lines all have very successful, very well-developed content programs, and we're going to talk about them now. So first thing we want to do is talk about success. Let's paint this picture. You have 90 seconds. Tell us what you've done with content programs and how it's working for your business, and we'll just go left to right.
Okay, so it starts with the transformation of the Rico brand. I've been chartered with leading that strategy. And the success that we're beginning to see with content management is nurturing our customer, educating our customer, so our customer gives us permission to look into areas that we're not necessarily serving today. We're in a copier, printer, mature marketplace. We need to move into the services environment, and content management is king as it relates to nurturing these customers.
I would say the same. Content management for us has allowed me to take our brand into a bit of a new area. So it's very difficult for small businesses to really understand what is in their business credit file. And they only learn this when they get denied a loan or Walmart turns them down. So we had to come up with a different way to speak to them, to get through to them. We had to turn it around from a reactive marketing where they're calling and getting angry because their D&B scores were not where they needed to be, or there was not enough information in their file, to understanding why they should take a proactive role to build that credit. So the success we have seen from this, we took the notion of of access to capital and said, as a thought leader, we're going to really own that space. And so we started with data. We created data with a study from Pepperdine University, and then we took the results of that data, which it's an index that we do on a quarterly basis, and the results of that have led us to now my CEO is the go-to guy on small business funding. President Clinton uses our study. We created entire events around this thought leadership on access to capital, a website, and all kinds of video content and evergreen content that we continue to use to help educate small businesses. And the biggest success out of it came the need for a free product that would help small businesses actually have the opportunity to get in, look at the credit report, see what's in there, and they are converting at an amazing 4%. And so it literally changed the way we go to market online. So we now have 150,000 new customers as of, I think it was last week. So that is really true success, I think.
That's cool. Oh, Richard, before you say anything, I have the money that Pete wanted to give you for saying such
saying
nice
thank
things. Yeah, okay. So keep
good.
going, yeah.
So when I started at Viking, we had a problem. No one understood what river cruising was, and so the best way to tell that story, I'm a big data direct mail guy, and we would increase our circulation and deal with it that way. But we realized very quickly that video is a great way of telling a story. So the more we told the story through video, the more success we had as a business. And I realized early on that that was a great way of conveying the benefits of the type of experience we provide. Our objective as a company is to be the world leader in enrichment travel, not cruises necessarily, for the English-speaking world over the age of 55. And so that's UK, Australia, US, Canada, and then anyone else that's willing to come with us and listen in English. So video then became an opportunity, because what we started doing, and this was one of those early ideas that suddenly worked, is we put some things on video, put it in the subject line, added recipes, added other types of contents, and if I want to spike web hits for Viking, I send out an email with chocolate in the subject line. Surefire hit. And so building on that, that led into many other engaging types of content that we've developed over the years. And it is easy in travel. Our target audience, there are 3 topics that they're willing to engage in. One is their health, good, bad, and their friends. 2 is their grandkids, because ultimately the kids are at some level of disappointment. And 3 is travel. And because travel is an opportunity, that lends itself to social media. So very early on, we co-opted in Facebook and created an environment through which we would throw in content type of information, because the booking cycle for us is so long, and we wanted to keep our folks as engaged as possible. And so we've got a long way to go. We're very aggressive with content, for us, it's creating the right vessels and the right curation such that we can get it out and become more of a portal for our target audience to engage in other types of tangential content going forward.
Okay, so we've established that the 3 of them have large content programs, and I know that the first question would be from a CEO sitting here is, okay, what's the ROI of this? So how are you measuring the success of your programs? And go ahead, Dominic, because I know you have a robust measurement.
So I was the guy yesterday asking the KPI question, and we measure and monitor all of these activities. We are using content management for a variety of reasons, one of which is demand generation. And so as we nurture our customers and we get an understanding of what's important to them, and as they begin to click through and we utilize a Marketo engine and we start to score, then we begin then to go to the next phase, which is a demand gen. So you're interested in why, and I'm going to start feeding you more why information. And so through Marketo, at a certain point in time, it's qualified, and it goes to our telequal sales team. Our telequal sales team will actually contact the customer And when the customer says, yes, I'm ready to see a sales representative, that automatically goes into Salesforce. And so the sales rep sees the lead, but the sales rep also sees all of the activity through this customer. They understand, their pain points, they understand what they're interested in. And so using content marketing, not only externally, but using that same information to educate our sales representatives, then they can go in and naturally close the deal. So we have metrics around the number of telequalification, how many of those leads go into opportunities. If a sales rep says it's not, it goes back to marketing. Then we can look at a pipeline, a marketing-driven pipeline, not a sales-driven one, but a marketing-driven one. And then ultimately we see the revenue and the sale and the ROI. So we monitor this monthly. We look at a bottom 5. We have marketplaces around the country. We look at the bottom 5 who are not participating, who are not taking that lead, not taking it to the opportunity, and we ask those marketplace vice presidents, why are you not doing this? And so nobody wants to be on the bottom 5. Nobody wants to answer to the CEO. And so we are getting results that are well over industry standards.
I can't wait till we have marketing automation. We're doing it all manually, and so I want to talk to you.
Yeah, right.
It's a whole different topic, right?
Yeah,
Whole-
exactly. We are measuring it differently for different programs. So I think that's really important that you set out to, create the intent and the objectives and the marketing mission and so forth, and you treat each one very specifically, because it's not all about
Right.
just the sale, right? In the case of our Access to Capital Thought Leadership Initiative, we wanted to be that small business advocate. We needed that for our brand. And then we measured that based on several things, the usage of the study, and I went to Capitol Hill and I met with congresspeople and senators, and they were all using the study. I mean, it was that to me was,
That's validation.
Yeah, a validation. In addition to, we had established a lot of partnerships that we could not do before this. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, terrific success stories there too. So it may not always be about the sale.
And I think that's a really important point. I mean, the think about if you create a brilliant piece of content and it becomes used, you won't necessarily see that directly unless you happen to be in a senator's office or so forth, but the value of that is immeasurable and will have a ripple effect eventually.
Right.
Do you have a direct measurement here? Or?
No, ours, and if there are any media mix modeling specialists in the house, please give me your card. What we do is we basket all of our marketing once a month and see what it looks like and look at the ROI that way. So the mix is a challenge. We're very sophisticated with some of what we do, but not all. I will say that we do measure, when folks engage in some of our content-focused email non-selling videos, the stickiness on the site is about 7 minutes and 40 seconds as opposed to 3:30. We've got about 6 million minutes consumed of this content on YouTube. So, we can see what it does to our email opens and engagement otherwise. So for us, the measurement of success is to the degree that we're adding to the product experience. So you've talked about, we view the product as being something, your experience being something that starts with your first engagement with the brand. Not just the trip that you're on, but that whole journey from the 10 months from which you book to all to the time that you depart. So we try to fill it with as much relevance and things that are of interest to you as possible.
And I think that's a really interesting point that you could think about and apply to your brand. Is a lot of companies do events, but there's nothing before and nothing after. If you think of each piece of content as a potential event that can extend that relationship, it becomes very powerful. But at the same time, as you're doing all this stuff, and when you first got started, it must have been a slow build. I mean, it's not like suddenly people are knocking on the door, and building up that library takes time, and also building up the proficiency takes time. So how do you go to your CEO and say, we have this idea, we're going to do this content marketing program, and it's going to take a long time for it to work, and he's got a quarterly earnings report, if you happen to be a public company, to deal with. So how do you sell this into management? Judy, you want to?
I had to sell it into the board. It went beyond my CEO. And it was about $1.3 million. And I had to, really convince them that this was worth the effort, and that that it would change, it would be a game changer for us. And instead of small businesses reacting to our marketing, they could become proactive. And I told them that it was not going to be an overnight sensation. I made that clear up front. And I was lucky enough to get their blessing and their support. So much to the point now that we've had so much success, and we have sold at these events, and we do have really amazing metrics. And at every board meeting, I update them on those.
So mine's an interesting story. We're a family-owned business. It was dinner at the Aquavit restaurant in New York City, and I recognized in the beginning that Viking was going to really start pushing for content, and that we needed someone on camera. And I wanted a Samantha Brown, if you're familiar with the Travel Channel, type of individual but at a slightly higher level, someone who's a little bit more sophisticated. And it just so happened that an individual happened to be at the table, and she has done an absolute, I had to convince her father and her that this was a good idea. And because in the beginning it wasn't entirely warmly received, but through the course of the dinner, we did a trial to Russia. You can see the results on our website if you go to vrc.com/videos, and they're excellent. She has done a phenomenal job, and we couldn't have made a better choice.
How many pieces of content are you creating a year now?
We're up to we did 6 shoots this year, I think 5 or 6 shoots this year, and we're probably in that vertical because we've got a variety of verticals. You've got recipes as a vertical. We're doing other sorts of interesting things, but in the pure video EVID category, we're up to about 200 and change, and we're probably doing 50, 70 a year.
50 to 70 videos a year.
Yeah, and the videos range from 2 minutes 30 to about 7 minutes. It all depends. So and that's the video side.
So just for how many pieces of content do you think you're creating on an annual basis?
We are creating, this year we'll create 48 internal videos to supplement other content on internal training, and so another 20 external videos. Yeah.
68 videos, and then there's got to be a lot of written content, I would think.
Yeah, we'll talk about infographics later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say hundreds, especially videos. So we just finished a series shoot of 27 videos, and we're now taking our content. We figured out a content syndication strategy by going to small business lenders and CDFIs around the country and partnering with them. They need this educational material. They can't afford to produce it. They've asked us to produce it, so we're producing it for them, and we're including the free product in there. So not only will now we have that education vehicle with all these tentacles, hundreds and hundreds, I'm going to present in Philly next week, we will also sign up free credit signals, and those will lead to paid, premium products down the road.
So while we're talking about all this quantity of content, how are you managing production costs? I mean, obviously they vary, and we talked about video. All three of you gave examples of video, and we've all seen good video and bad video and good cheap video and bad cheap video. I mean, how are you managing the video production costs? How do you decide how much you're going to spend?
Unanswerable. We've got a phenomenal partner that we work with up in Seattle, and we keep the crew costs low. We keep it's extremely professional. It's extremely well done, and what we do is it's what are the needs of the business. So we identify it, and then we back into how much we should spend on marketing. So in our instance, it's destination specific. And where do we need to fill holes from a destination standpoint, as we've just added a variety of new destinations? Therefore, we have to go and film there.
Right.
And so we have a very moderate budget, but it's something that frankly we should be doing more with.
Interesting.
I think it depends on whether or not it's evergreen content,
Right.
and
Yeah.
or it's
Well
a
said.
one-shot deal.
Right.
I'll spend more on the evergreen.
But
And most of ours is evergreen.
But we talked about this. You're spending a fair amount on and you're increasing that budget.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of get into the budget? I mean, we're talking about a lot of videos. How did you sort of get?
I begged, borrowed, and stole from other areas, and now I'm going to be able to put a budget together and take it to the CFO and pitch it for next year, and so I'll take that 1.2 million and try to increase it beyond. Now, mind you, that 1.2 million also includes the events that we create that video. But I have also, you know, and I encourage people to do this. Don't let that get you, you know, you can do this stuff in-house. And we started in-house, and I hired a couple of videographers. And
Same with us.
Yeah, so we have a great in-house team. They produce wonderful content. We would do hour-long live stream events, and you know, and we did that for well over a year before we actually invested in content.
Are you producing all your content in-house as well?
Our internal, yes. External is a weakness for us. We have these 48 campaigns, so we have a budget per campaign. So inside that budget is video. We try to keep that to a minimum internally.
Right.
External, you know, we had a dinner in Atlanta, CMO Club dinner. Mo Films were there. We're starting to have dialogue on how we can enrich external. And again, that is a weakness today for us.
Are there any sort of, as we're talking about doing this in-house versus outsourcing, are there any sort of shortcomings on, I mean, obviously you save money by doing it in-house, but how do you know your quality is as good as it can be, and you're hitting your sort of, your standard levels?
I'll know next week when I
Okay.
present all my videos.
Our feedback is from sales and internally. They love them, and they're using them. So we're measuring their downloads, right? Are they viewing them? If they're not viewing them and they're not using them, then again, we're not getting the return on behavior.
Also, the influencers that are picking up the content and marketing it on our behalf, I think that's a testament to, you know, whether or not you're doing good work. And on all of the content that we've created from Access to Capital, we've had that happen, and they become marketers for us, right?
Right.
So they use that content. So.
Well, that's really interesting. Also, just the notion that a lot of this content is good for the employees in helping them understand the brand and being brand advocates and so forth. And that's probably not something that it goes on in the planning cycle, but it's a wonderful byproduct of well-done content. We've talked about that this content is working and it's doing stuff, but what is it really good at from a purchase cycle standpoint in terms of, because it can't do everything in every element. And I thought your perspective was interesting, and maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on exactly where this fits in. And
Well, for us, it's envisioning yourself in the moment, and what we're doing is, you know, there's a rainbow of reasons for the motivations for why people travel. Some folks, it's music, history, art, food, culture, and checking a box. You know, it's a whole variety of things. So what we try to do with our content creation is ensure that we're touching on as many chords as possible. The objective is to be relevant to you with whatever you happen to be interested in. One of the things that we're going to be doing over the next few weeks or so is the men, and then the other thing is purposing that content to where the individuals are. Our male passengers are led by the female who decides to go. So there are a variety of things that we're doing now that will be airing on the military channel that works in conjunction with the male's interest. That's less about the female. The female, it's a more emotional play and more of an emotional ploy. So the objective is, you know, you find what you need, you have a relevance in your daily life, and it connects to ultimately the experience we're looking to drag you off the couch for.
Right. And what I thought was interesting, and something that I hadn't really thought about from a content marketing standpoint, is you talked about how it was after you bought the product. You had committed to doing the cruise, but then there's another 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and there's all this nurturing that you're doing along the way with this content. And I thought that was an interesting way of thinking about content. Is it might not be the thing that closes the sale, but it might be the thing that can create brand advocacy and anticipation.
And so what we see is, you know, the objective there is to get referrals.
Right.
You know, you're booked to travel, you've made the decision, you've made the financial commitment, and then we send you a piece of interesting, relevant content, and you share it with a friend.
Right.
And that friend now sees something that's interesting and engaging, and it's not salesy per se, because you would never forward that.
Right.
You know, here, this is interesting, you might find it fun, you might find it engaging, and then that type of thing leads to, you know, it's a difficult measure. We do have a referral program in place, but it's hard to understand what weight the content that we're producing ultimately drives in terms of results, but I know it's good.
Leap of faith. And yours is a little bit the opposite. I mean, you talked about demand gen, but in the
Right.
purchase cycle thing, where is this content having the greatest impact?
Well, as we mentioned, the transformation is in a journey, and I already mentioned, trust and permission are very key components there. We have done external and internal surveys, and I'm sure many of us have done the same, whether it's 40% or 60% of the selling cycle. We saw today with Facebook and Twitter, right? Everybody's going where? Everybody's going to the web, everyone's going to social, everybody's talking to friends. We use CEB, the Marketing Leadership Council, and their number's 57%. So as baby boomers are retiring, right, we have these 25-year relationship with these individuals, and now here comes Generation X, Generation Y. What are they doing? They're going up to the web, right? So this is absolutely critical. 57% of the selling cycle is completed before the rep even comes in, right? So that's where we have to have the content is extremely relevant, or we're not even invited to the party.
Well, and Marketo would say that that's really efficient use of your sales force, because you get that they do all the content does the pre-selling, and when they finally do call you, they're ready to buy and they're an educated customer.
Right. In our case, they're not necessarily ready to say the words, right? So we've got to say the words for them and get the customer prepared and then go in there.
So, and we're going to run out of time here, but here we are talking about content marketing in isolation, and which is obviously not a great thing to do in any sort, because we're in a whole world of marketing plan. And I thought your program was particularly interesting in talking about how it really was far more than just a video here and a white paper here. It was a full 360 program. Talk about the advantages of thinking about content marketing. And
Yeah, we set out and treated it like we would a brand strategy or an advertising play, where we actually created a brief and said what are the different components that we want to create, and why, and what their individual what the expectations were. And I think we said, okay, this is how we came to doing an event, right? Which is a very expensive way to create content, but it's probably one of the best ways to create content, because you can create so much of it at once. So we did a full-blown website, Access to Capital website, the study, the index, which now is in its second year, and then we created all the video content. Now we're creating additional materials, one-offs, that is now launching into this whole new program, which, as I said earlier, turned into an entire online strategy to acquire customers at free, and then work through a freemium model, which we would have never ever discovered.
interesting.
Yeah.
Lightning round here. Yes or no? Will we be talking about content marketing at next year's summit?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, big time.
that was an easy one. Okay, if I'm a CMO and I've been a little slow to the content marketing tell us a couple of mistakes I should try to avoid. Go ahead.
It all starts with a survey, and we talked about the number one issue, analytics. If the content could be awesome, but if it's not relevant, who cares? So think about how many emails you delete on a daily basis, how many hundreds of emails you delete on a weekly basis. All that information was not relevant to you. So research up front, understand pain points, then build the program.
Yeah, it's putting yourself in the customer's shoes, first, and looking in the mirror and saying, would I buy that? Would I want to read that? Would I want to watch that? And then I also think just be careful. There are a lot of services out there that want to, I don't want to say the names of them, but there's a few.
Oh, come on, we're among friends.
Brafton up in New York, I think. I used them for a bit, Don't be careful not to just hire services to start creating tons and tons of content. There are good services out there, but try to know the difference and do your research, because we got burned that way in the beginning. We were so hungry to get started on our content plan.
With a big plan.
Yeah.
And you just went wide fast.
And then we found it was so difficult to manage those people, and they just didn't know our business enough to be able to do that. So
real quick, a mistake.
Simple. Find out what's of interest and intersect.
There you go. Okay, so questions for the audience. Thank you. Yes.
So any tips for creating content outside of English language and for reaching global audiences? any ways to
I
make it
heard
scale?
I heard something at the Content Marketing World. Did anybody go to Content Marketing World here? It was good. It was just recently, about a month ago. I did hear that there's a lot of crowdsourcing going on in this area.
We didn't talk about crowdsourcing as another one, but we'll,
So I mean, you might want to look into
Right.
that crowdsourcing for language, for especially for like user-generated.
there's a service called .sub that essentially allows you to take any video and crowdsource translations, which is an interesting one to check out. I think it's a more complicated question and obviously, here we've talked about extremely relevant content. And if you just take something that is perfect for an individual and then you say, oh, let's throw it at the Chinese and see what they think about it, you're probably going to need new content. Other questions out there? Yes.
How are you staffing for content? Where do the content people sit? What do you think works best?
Great question. We talked about this at the last workshop where, again, product-centric people, right? Vertical-centric, software, whatever. And so we have created a content management structure under our marketing communications organization to bring all of the components in so we have a common story and a common look and feel. And we've made big investments in those resources.
Yes, ours is under a Marcom as well. But we do loop in, obviously. You cannot do this in silos. You have social media, you have Marcom. I have a product manager on the creation of some of our content. So it's a collaboration, and we meet weekly. And, it's a coming together. So, but Marcom.
So it's, I had the big data and content things up. I thought the session yesterday was great. So content, I'd like to retitle Marcom Content Marketing.
Yep.
And just put it all under the same umbrella. It's PR, it's social, it's content marketing, and, everything that's involved underneath it.
Yeah, good point.
Yep.
So I want to thank Dominic and Judy and Richard for joining the panel. And not only did they join this panel, but they also agreed to be interviewed in writing in extensive interviews, which you can read now on the Drew blog or social media today. And I'm going to be taking all that content and turning it into a post for fastcompany.com. So if any of you have a great content marketing story, please let me know right away on that so we can create more content about content marketing. And finally, I just want to encourage you all to climb aboard the content cruise, and I wish you smooth sailing. There we go.
Good job.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good.